Carrie, can you do roll call?
Yes. Ellen Jimenez,
Present.
Regina Salas, Jennifer Grogan,
Present.
Lisa Food, present. Michael Marquez,
Present online.
Jonathan Stone, Jamie Thousand.
Perfect. And as a reminder, if you're carrying a cell phone, computer, or other sound device, we ask that you turn it off to minimize disruption to today's meetings. Feature. Local check-in time is Vice Mayor Eslin on. All right. Commissioners, do you have any updates or announcements?
I'll start. Our Arizona Board Cubanino County Workforce is hosting the statewide workforce convening on June 10 and 11 at High Country Conference Center. So we will have we're expecting about 300 workforce professionals across the state, and we will have the governor's office working with us in the Office of Economic Opportunity. So we'll have the governor who will be here for the first day. I'm lobbying to include a discussion on tourism and workforce development. So if that is, if I get the green light on that, I will let Trace and Heidi know to have it. There will be a discussion also on, we're inviting Mayor Becky, probably a couple more mayors in the region about workforce development in Northern Arizona region. We're looking at discussing tourism as a major industry within the region. So stay tuned. But I will touch base with our convention guru here, because if there's any swags that you want us to share with the attendees, and I'm hoping to organize a social somewhere nearby within walking distance to High Country Conference Center. Walking distance.
I got five.
Yes, walking distance. Yeah, so this is big for our community hosting that workforce convening, because the last time we hosted one was 2016, 2017.
Commissioner Solis, it is about 450 total sleeping rooms went out.
Yeah.
We're good on, so it's a big one.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
it's probably plus they're probably including their spouses as well. And we're also expecting the president and CEO of the National Association of Workforce Board from DC. So we will show Flagstaff.
I'll do a quick wrap up from the eclipse. We had Lowell Observatory was the host of the broadcast done that ended up being shared on CNN and Discovery Channel, Science Channel, and through I had a connection through a celebrity that I work for. His name is Misha Collins, who had several million people, who was talking about Flagstaff and Lowell Observatory. We made sure to orient Lowell Observatory in Flagstaff, International Dark Sky City. We had all of that messaging in there. At the end, after we counted all of the impressions and engagements, we had 28 million engagements and impressions. That is not counting anything from TV, because I don't, but it was on Science Channel TV and on CNN. So that was a really exciting success for that broadcast segment that we did. Yeah, I know, that was a big one.
All right. It's discussion. Oh, boy. Erin Young is here with the Water Resources. She's Water Resources Manager at the City of Flagstaff, and she's going to talk about her
Yes, I will. Now I have to find my team so I can share. Here we go. Oop, I'm not. Share. So if I'm not using your template for the city. We could talk about it after 5. I was like, I wonder who's gonna be in that meeting.
Can we have a copy of this presentation?
I just shared it with Carrie.
Okay.
I put together way too many slides. My intent is not to spend a lot of time on 80 of them, but just to kind of, I would love it if you kind of understood the how water and sewer rates are set. And it might help if you're talking to your neighbors or groups about, the need for the changes and just how the process works. So this has been I guess now a year-long process for me because City Council adopted the contract with a Stantec engineering firm to conduct the study a year ago. We were first in front of council with meaningful information in October. So they've been at this since October. So I'd love to share with you water services, who we are, and then I'll kind of get into the details of the study, the main steps and the outcomes. And then number 6, the sort of remaining agenda with City Council towards hopeful adoption of rate changes. So who we are. In Flagstaff, we have 4 water or wastewater treatment plants. Our wastewater plants are called water reclamation plants. So they take the wastewater and turn it into very clean reclaimed water, the highest standard under the state law, Class A plus reclaimed water. We have a lot of storage tanks around town. We have our 30 drinking water wells. A lot of those are 2,500 feet deep, so it's very expensive to pump water from our deep sea aquifer. We also pull water from Upper Lake Mary. We have actually more like 480 miles of distribution pipelines. So we say most of our great work is buried underground, and why you don't see us only when we have a main break, and we're having more and more of these, and we don't want to have them. We have had to defer maintenance. We're underfunded. So deferring that maintenance results in more frequent line breaks. We have water lines that are 100 years old and sewer collection lines that are 100 years old. We've got sandpipes for customers who haul water. So we have a couple drinking water sandpipes and 2 reclaimed water sandpipes, and we employ just under 100 staff within water services. How many of you are city water and or sewer customers? Everyone here? Awesome. You're not one. Okay. Oh, you are. You just didn't raise your hand. Okay. So the priorities for the rate study: providing high quality water, developing reliable sources of water. We actually plan for generations of water supply. Addressing aging water infrastructure. Because we've been underfunded, we've had to rob our maintenance budgets to pay for the increasing costs due to inflation of a lot of our capital projects. Reclaiming water for tomorrow, I think, is our coin phrase for just continuing to reclaim and reuse that water as much as we can. And then fulfilling regulatory requirements. And those are always changing. You may have heard of the PFAS regulations. Fortunately, in Flagstaff, we don't detect the PFAS chemicals within our drinking water sources. So we're always sampling for those, the EPA samples, state samples. It is in our reclaimed water, very, very trace amounts. So we'll watch and see if reclaimed water might be regulated, but it's a very costly process. to treat PFAS. So that's a big issue for a lot of communities in Arizona, small water systems and big cities. So our insufficient funding, the last time rates were in front of city council was in 2015. And they did vote for an increase at that time. It didn't cover all of the needs we were asking for, but that was the level they were comfortable funding, the increase at that time. Since then, we haven't seen an increase from our customers since 2020. So with inflation and everything, we're just coasting. And so we're underfunded. And I do have a lot of slides, so take a glance and I'll just keep kind of cruising through. We're prioritizing our aging infrastructure. The rate study, what the increases would cover, if we would be able to replace our aging infrastructure and adopt programs. Like we haven't been doing our asset management program, our condition assessment program, where we send scopes down the sewer lines to see where they're failing. Here are some pictures of what happens when we have main breaks. It causes flooding in people's neighborhoods or on major streets. We are under the American Water Works Association average number of main breaks for a system, but they still are substantial. So anyway. And our collection system is the kind of rusted out manhole is where the collection system has eroded through the bottom of the pipe. Obviously, we don't want sewage leaking into the ground, but it's happening. One example of a big capital improvement project for us are the Lake Mary sedimentation basins. These are at the Lake Mary plant. And a lot of that infrastructure is from the 50s or 60s. When we went to do this capital project in 2018, bids were coming in like almost $1 million higher than the budget of $5 million. So we couldn't afford to do it. So we put it back out for bid. Then it came back at $7 million. Now it's a $15 million project we're bringing forward to city council. So that's why we're having to rob other budgets to cover these major capital projects. So that's an example. Okay, the rate study itself. How do we fund our water services needs? There are a couple buckets of water. We get our monthly user charges. So that's what you pay your fixed monthly service charge on your water bill, and then your volumetric, your per 1,000 gallons that you use. The capacity fee bucket is funded by, should be 100% funded by growth, but that's difficult to do because we only earn as much revenue into that bucket as growth happens, as developers buy new water meters, for example. So we do have a big list of capital projects that in theory over 10 years could be 100% funded by growth. When they're not funded by growth, the monthly user charges does pay for some of the growth projects. And there's often a mutual benefit to the current residents when we do a lot of growth related projects. New wells benefit us through just having a more redundant water supply. If we had a wildfire, for example, we have more knobs that we can turn on in other areas of the city to keep providing you with constant water flowing out of your taps. We have a small user fee bucket. So that's if you call us to turn on or off your water service, things like that. And all these fees were evaluated in the study. Maybe I should ask you how long I have for this talk. I don't want to go like 2 hours. And
That's okay.
would you like me to keep it within a certain?
I'm gonna leave that to the chair to answer.
How much more do you have?
I have probably 20 minutes. And I could
I'm fine
kind of
with
skip
you.
around.
If you're fine with
I
that.
am, if you guys are.
Okay. I'll try to zoom through.
Thank you for putting all this together.
You're welcome. Or we can cut to the chase if you guys are like, this is all we really want to know.
It's certainly interesting.
Is it? Okay.
And your pictures are great.
Oh, they come from you guys, I think. Okay, the name on the head there. Actually, Stantec, they found these pictures. They're like, there are these great pictures we found. So this is them. And, so for financial planning, the first step was setting our revenue targets. And we gave council 3 options. And we said, look, if you wanted to fund everything we need, this is our top bar. And we gave them another bar, which was like, this is everything we've been informed that we need to do by consultants. And then the lower bar is kind of like, well, we could keep creeping along, but we really don't recommend that. They were all in October. They said, let's go for it and see what the outcome is. And we were floored. We were very, very happy with that. And they're like, we can't afford to delay any longer. These are the assumptions that go into the model that drive the resulting water rates. So something like the growth rate, 1% annually. We've had just last Tuesday, a gentleman came in and said, I don't like that growth rate. You should be looking at, we can choose whatever growth rate we want. And in 10 years, we can look back and see how well we did. But these are the drivers in the model that can be changed and adjusted to see if it gets to different outcomes that council might want to see. If they want to see commercial rates come down, can we tweak the model and see those rates come down, for example? So they're having a work session on May 16th where they're going to play with these levers. We're going to do like live model runs with them and they can kind of play with the results. So I'll jump into the financial plan for the water fund. Okay, just looking at the red dotted line, our revenues run out by fiscal year 26 with our current, this is the track we're on. I'm not going to go into all the details. So, but you know, we start with what's our current financial outlook. We did this in October. Here we're breaking down the proposed all-in water fund annual expenses over the next 10-year period. Even though this is a 5-year increase, we're looking 10 years out. So you can see the dollars allocated to our personnel, to our operations and maintenance, and then the different sort of buckets of expenses and the target that we're trying to hit. This is our full water capital improvement program list of projects. So you see a lot on here. If you ever had any questions, you could ask us. You'll see some projects that have an asterisk, which is those hope to be grant funded. We're always looking for grant opportunities. And sometimes people, they want to see these breakdowns. So I put this in just in case you wanted to see the breakdown, but you'll see where we're funded, hopefully by grants, how much cash we have, capacity, the anticipated revenue from capacity fees, and then what we're carrying for debt. We're looking at total CIP number of 214 million. That's our 10-year capital program revenue target, 200 million. So $20 million a year capital.
Erin, why aren't there any grant funds in 26?
I guess I don't know for sure if we're just not planning to execute a new grant in that year.
And then I'd be curious to know, it just seems like the grants have like really tapered.
Yeah, so we're hitting it hard right now. And we have to apply for those grants in the out years. I mean, that's my response. Like in 25, we'll be looking for grants for 26. And, you know, the money is only available, you know, in maybe a couple year forecast with.
Yeah, I'm just seeing grant funds in years after 26. So just curious as And it's significantly less, and I'm just curious as to why.
Yeah, and my feeling is that we do apply for them like the next, a year in advance of, not in advance. We get the money the year after we apply.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess we just don't have grants projected. I'm gonna double check for 26 why we wouldn't have something in 26 and we would in 27.
Just being conservative.
That too, but
There's nothing on the books at the moment,
Nothing in the pipeline. Yeah.
so.
pun intended, water line.
Here all day.
See, though, for 2031, 2033, there's no grant funding
Yeah,
forecasted.
we
Anticipated.
We can get into federal, like Bureau of Reclamation programs where you're earmarked, where you get the appropriation through like your senator and they secure that for you and then you'll have grant funding for several years because commonly they're like really big phased projects. We've requested to be have an appropriation for some water grants and some sewer or wastewater grants, but we haven't heard on those yet. And applying for grants takes a lot of work and we don't have a grant person within water services, which would be really nice to have a grant writer. We're trying to outsource that work, but to outsource the work takes coordination and I'm actually behind on setting meetings with our grant people. Let's just.
On the previous slide, it showed like the salary segment. Is a grant writer one of those projected roles?
No, these are all operations staff that we're still trying to build. Like I wanted a water resources sidekick and that's not in here. Even though I'm doing all the rate work, I don't even get my person, so. We do have, Stacy Greckler and Eggs and our amazing grants and contracts team, and they'll spearhead like submitting the grant, but it takes somebody to write it. And you guys are probably all familiar with that. You need the grant writer, so. Grants are a priority for city council, and we'll keep applying for things. So all of this resulted in increases of 15% a year to water rates. And how this trickles down to the customer classes, in the first year, it's not uniform 15% because we're also doing what's called a cost of service adjustment, where we look at the cost to serve residents based on when we all turn on our water in our homes versus the cost to serve commercial industries where they're using a lot of water, maybe, at night for restaurants. And then our industries are maybe using a lot of water, during the days on the weekends. And each category costs different. They have different peaking factors. So we're doing this adjustment to make sure that one category isn't subsidizing another. And we are having to make adjustments. I think residential has been paying a little more and commercial, or maybe commercial has been paying more and residents have been not paying enough for cost of service. So commercial rates will actually drop the first year or two on water to adjust for that. I'll call it a subsidization, and it's not significant, hugely significant, but it is a correction we have to make. After the correction is made in the first year in fiscal year 25, it's 15% each year, which is a very big increase.
Yeah.
And which we don't want to be doing again in the future. We need to be checking in annually with each of our funds. And we were without a director for a bunch of years, and it just, that and COVID, we just couldn't get a handle on the rate study. So we're sorry.
Are you trying to change behavior with?
You might
rates?
think so, right?
Yeah,
So it's interesting you bring that up. The fixed fee you pay right now is probably $16.64 for your monthly 3/4 inch meter. And that's 29% of the total revenue. And our policy is 25%, so we're gonna bring that back down to 25%, which gives customers more opportunity to save on the volumetric. The dollars per thousand is going up a little, but you can save through water conservation. So council making that decision is putting more in the hands of the customers to save some money and water. It wasn't a conservation tactic necessarily, but it is, we're recognizing it for that. We're not trying to raise rates just to see water drop. But it'll be an outcome for sure. Landscape meters are going up like 100%. The dollars per thousand.
Do you have that competition in one of your slides?
Yes.
What's a landscape meter?
So a lot of, a common example is a big apartment complex. They have their meter for indoor use and then they have their landscape meter for outdoor use. The sewer side is billed based on how much water you use in December, January, February, March, because that represents your indoor use in theory. And landscape meters don't use any water in the winter. So it just keeps the two separated. So on your residential water use, your sewer is billed based on that winter use. And then with the idea that in the summer, if you use water outside, we don't get that back in the sewer. So why would we charge you for that cost of service? So a lot of the big outdoor water users have a landscape meter. So I'm sure they'll be conserving and reducing greenscape with these numbers. But they were definitely being subsidized. So that's a major cost of service correction.
Will that also include the reclaimed water for like the golf courses and?
So reclaimed water, I didn't actually put any slides in, but the policy on reclaimed water is it's billed at 30% of the potable rate, or it could be 35% of the potable rate. And city council, reclaimed water gets very heated with community members saying no golf and others saying we live there, we love golf, and then snowball. So city council agreed to, we're just gonna leave reclaimed water rates at 35% of potable or whatever the current policy is, but we're gonna have a discussion right away on reclaimed water rates and kind of the future of reclaimed water. Because more and more it's valued like just as valuable as potable water. Even though we're not drinking it, it still has a value in the community, economic value. It's generating money through golf and snowball, just like potable is. So more and more the industry is saying, you know, water is water. But to suddenly change the price to the equivalent of potable golf courses, I mean, they have a business model set at much lower rates, so that would be a huge hit to them. But we do need to be progressive in recognizing the value. It used to be just, you know, discharged and water that was being thrown away. And it was like, who will take this water? But now it is recognized for its value more and more.
Too, right, because they're based on
Yes.
to the potable, so they're gonna see the same increase, right?
Yes, yeah, the 15% each year after the first year, of the correction. And then on the wastewater side, we're still seeing, okay, that outlook wasn't looking good. Showing the same annual expense buckets. And we have our capital list for the wastewater side. And then you'll see no grant money. There aren't grants for just aging systems. The grants are for taking wastewater and purifying it to direct potable reuse. That is where you drink it directly. And communities around Arizona are looking into that. El Paso, Texas will be the first to directly put advanced purified water into their drinking water system. So that's a big deal in the industry. Scottsdale will be doing that. They're losing their Colorado River allocation is being reduced with the condition of Colorado River. And they're like, it's really our only choice to do advanced water purification. So a lot of breweries in different states are being champions of taking the purified water and making beer with it and then drinking it. We had an event here about 5 years ago. I still see the green t-shirts around town sometime. I'm like, that's cool. They were handed out for free and I think it was 2016. So not a lot of grants for what we need, but we are seeking federal, like an authorization for a new wastewater treatment plant. So then we would see the grant funds and we could use help lobbying for that.
Is that something that you see down, as a vision of moving forward? Like they're doing in El Paso, and I know other places in Texas too,
Yeah,
done that during drought periods.
yeah, you're right. There was a Wichita Falls.
Wichita
And they
Falls, my
did it
parents
without
lived there. Yeah.
regulations. They just did it.
They just
Like,
did it. It was like an emergency reclamation project that they did during the drought because people had nothing to how their dams.
pretty crazy.
It was crazy. I was there for it. It was nuts.
I heard that, I don't know, I'd love to hear what your parents felt, but I heard people love the water so much, actually, it tasted so good that they wanted the purified water and not to go back to the reservoir water. Did your parents talk about like,
No, it was mostly just, I think it was so sudden, in that moment because it was like they just had to do it. And, there were some early, I think, lessons learned and things that went wrong that created, I think, an ick factor that made some like local media. I mean, it's Wichita Falls. It's a really small town in Texas. And now though, after an adjustment period, they're just like, whatever. It's, at first though, it was an emotional transition. To be honest, it was, yeah. But that was, what was that, 10 years ago? I mean, that was a long time ago. And, so now they're just like, whatever, it's fine, we'll run it through the Brita, they don't really care, so.
that's
Interesting.
really good quality water? I mean, there's, it obliterates, the treatment train process obliterates pretty much, everything, but not everything, but close, just like it's DI water. They have to add stuff back into the water, otherwise it would zap your system of nutrients.
Is that a goal though, like a
For
vision at the end?
Flagstaff, we have a lot of groundwater. We're very fortunate. We're also careful with where our well fields are seeing drops in the water table that aren't sustainable. Our first deep wells came in the 1950s. So each decade we're learning more about the sustainability of the aquifers, where we can pump more and see less drawdown. Red Gap Ranch is a future, water ranch that's possible for the city if and when we need that. But reclaimed, we can do what's called recharge and recovery, and that's called indirect potable reuse and not direct drinking it, but putting it into the aquifer and pulling it out of wells. And that's been happening intentionally and non-intentionally all around, because all around Arizona and all around anywhere, treated wastewater has to be discharged somewhere. So it's commonly discharged to a wash, and then the wash is where water infiltrates. So we do get some return from water discharge from the Rio de Blanc plant. The Wildcat plant is down gradient of our wells, and now I'm going into way too much detail. The short answer is we've looked at it conceptually, direct potable reuse for Flagstaff, but only conceptually to compare to other options. We're not in it like, we don't need to do it. Cottonwood is doing it. They need to do it because they can't recharge water. Their water table is too shallow. And
Are they doing it now?
they're working with the Bureau of Reclamation, and I think they said 2026. I don't know if that's the right date, but Scottsdale is 2027. So it's gonna be happening. So wastewater rates are different. First year, 25%, 25, 15, 10, 5. We needed a big boost in the first couple of years and then we could taper off. Your residential bill will probably go up $10 the first year if you're using less than 4,000 gallons a month. The $10 is because we're implementing or want to implement a fixed fee on wastewater. You pay a fixed fee of $16 on water. We'd like to do that on wastewater because it funds our base operations. And when people leave in the winter and we turn them off, we turn off their water. They pay like $2 a month for wastewater because they're paying a base rate. Now they would pay $12 or $13 a month. And that way they can come home anytime and turn on their sewer. So that way we're collecting that. So if you use less than 2,500 gallons a month, your water will actually go down the first 2 years. Council adjusted the dollars per thousand down for first tier and second tier usage to help residents with the costs that we're seeing. Question.
So I see that you have increases and I see the 25% for fiscal year 25. Is that an additional 25 then for 26 or is that?
It's another 25. It's compounding.
So then you'll be at 50 and then the previous one was scarier.
Yeah. And I have examples of how it impacts the customers. I could touch on capacity fees, but we don't have to because for sake of time, but how the different ways that we assess what to charge for capacity fees. If you really want to get into the weeds on that, we're glad to do that, but I'll save you. There are a couple different methods for choosing capacity fees. Council, let's see here. Oh boy, I didn't know these were in here like this. They included capacity fees towards funding a new wastewater treatment facility. They included some capacity fees towards the cost to construct Red Gap Ranch or another water reuse type project. They could have selected an option that would have increased capacity fees a lot more. Go back real quick. I don't have the numbers here, but they didn't go with the design standards. They're sticking with using these actual usage standards. And if they had used the design standards, like the capacity fee for a 3/4 inch meter, I think the numbers are, it's currently like $5,000 for a 3/4 inch. It would have gone up to $18,000 had they used design standards. We're using actual use standards today. The industry standard is to use design standards. That's to design for fire flow, capacity, and all these other things you have to design for. They might not actually use that because we don't have fires every day. But if we do, we need to be able to ramp up and have enough water in the system, if that makes sense. So we're charging capacity fees that don't cover the full design costs. So it's just interesting. Council selected options on water and wastewater capacity fees that are kind of in the middle of the range that they could have selected. Had they selected the design standards, it would have reduced the money in the bucket that we needed to collect from ratepayers, but not by much. So I've got all the capacity fee projects. Oh, here are the numbers. So these are all the options they had for 3/4 inch residential meter. You'll see the existing fees and then what the calculated fee would have been or is for what they selected. So capacity fees are going up like $3,000, maybe $2,300 for residential 3/4 inch. For larger commercial, it's 13,000. So That's basically the same thing. And then we have the growth-related wastewater projects to be funded partially through capacity fees. And the wastewater capacity fee doesn't go up very much, only less than $500. So here's where we get to your user rates and the impact of that 15% each year and then on water and the 25 on wastewater. Council defined these priorities as they went through the exercises of how to prioritize the financial model to meet like these for priorities, whether revenue ability for us in water services, reducing the administrative burden on customer service. So if we add more tiers, for example, in commercial, that's just more administrative burden. We tried to simplify if anything, and our consultant was able to justify simplifying some of the customer classes. Conservation is important. So going through the exercises, these are the results. I don't know if I'll go through the options with you. Here's where they landed. They revised the option 3 we had presented. You can see on the left, the current fixed meter charge. Like I mentioned, you probably pay $16.64. You'd be paying $14.33 because we're reducing the fixed fee, the portion funding our operations and maintenance down to 25%. And then you'll see the current rate per 1,000 gallons and how those are going up. That tier price ratio is how much it's basically they've changed those ratios for tiers 3 and 4 up so that when you get into tier 3 and using over 6,200 gallons a month, the idea is most of that is outdoor use. So they priced that more heavily than indoor use. So they changed those ratios. The proposal for the one change on customer classes, institutional of the NAU. And we're not supposed to, under law, we can't release anyone's water usage. It's illegal, but we have a customer class that does exactly that when we report water usage. So we're proposing to put institutional in commercial so that they're not called out as the only institutional. So that changes their rate, the $588 per 1,000. It's equal to commercial. So that's reducing administrative burden. Yes, Ralph?
I should have a question. So you mentioned winter use kind of determines what your outdoor use is in the summer. When is that determined or when is that looked at? Is that like annually done or just one time and then that's it?
It is now annual and it wasn't annual, but now we have a computer system that does that automatically. But on your bill, you can look at your sewer might be like 3,500 gallons and you can look back at your water usage just to make sure it matches your winter. If it doesn't, you can actually go in and request that they change it and you can get money back if you were being charged too much on sewer.
I was just thinking of someone who has 2 homes and in the winter time they head down where it's warmer.
Well, and for customers who did shut off water in the winter, we would charge a base of 500 gallons. So that's like $3. So we wouldn't zero them out. So these are the new rates for the first year, which would be effective September 1 through December of next year. These are the rate tables. They're in the packet if you want to look at them in more detail. And then we provided some averages. So the average monthly usage for a resident is 4,000 gallons a month. And you can see each year what that total bill change is. So in year one, $1.13. That's a 3.7% change. Again, not all of these are uniform the first year. Second year, then it would be $4.81. That would be 15% higher thereafter. The wastewater rate results, on the left is, we don't currently have a fixed meter charge. So we're showing what it would be, that proposed meter charge. That's why your bills would generally go up $10 because the usage isn't super significant. On the left or on the right, we're proposing consolidated classes. So you can see all the customer classes we currently have, and we're proposing to have a non-residential class A, B, and C. They'll probably have names, but it consolidates. And then you can see the volume charge per 1,000 gallons. So if you're using 3,500 or 3,000 gallons a month, your volume charge would be like $17. 5 times 3. And then we have the rate tables. And then we have examples. So your average residential water bill, I don't know why it doesn't say sewer. Is $26 if you're using 4,800 gallons a month. And that would go up to $38 in year one. So this is the bigger impact. You'll see that some are going down. Car washes the first year, a lot go down because there's a imbalance in the cost of service. And then when we consolidate the customer classes, it results in some crazy math in the first year. We've been meeting with a lot of industries. We've met with Joy-Con and we're meeting with NAU. We've talked to some breweries. And then we have combined bill impacts, just looking at the water and sewer together. Or this is just an example of using 4,500 gallons a month. This is showing all the fees on your municipal services bill. And just with the water and sewer, the highlighted charges, your bill in 2025 would be $15 higher in the first year. And then by 2029 would be $67 higher at the bottom. And then we have the same for a commercial customer using over 50,000 gallons a month. I'm almost through with the slides. We have a website and Ralph helped us with looking this over and the usability, cleanwaterflagstaff.com. You can go there today and we have a rate calculator. If you have your bill statement, it'll walk you through, you enter some information from your bill statement, and then you can cycle through years 1 through 5 on the total impact to your, just the water and sewer only charges. And any customer can do that, institutional, manufacturing, and then you can leave us a comment. And I see a question, Meg.
So can you get to, when you go to the City of Flagstaff website, is there a link to the cleanwaterflagstaff.com site?
There is,
Okay.
I think Sarah put it on the front of, at just City of Flagstaff, the generic site, but it's definitely on the water services site.
So people that just want water information, they can just go to the regular website and still get to you.
Yeah,
Okay.
And city council has taken these comments seriously. That's why the tweaked tiered rates happen, those ratios, because we had comments from families saying, we're family of 5, we're automatically in tier 2. And, you know, even though we're trying to be efficient, is there anything you can do? So they spent some time on the residential, for example. So the comments are very, very helpful.
And you're still accepting comments now,
We are, so.
or how, that's your timeframe.
So that is actually this slide.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're reading my mind. The rates hearings at the bottom, they would vote on the first read June 18th. So public comment can happen up to July 2nd, the second read. To be effective, we're asking for public comment through May. So we're having, well, the next city hall work session is on May 16th. That's where they'll be tweaking the model and seeing what might make a difference. Maybe, you know, can we target more grant funding, for example, and what does that do? Well, I think we're gonna have this public outreach event at the Aquaplex on Saturday, May 18th. And we're advertising free pizza. We're gonna try to get the other event we had on April 8th, we had 4 people show up. We haven't had a lot of public come to me, and I can't believe it, because in 2015, were you on city council? In 15, no, you were not. Lucky for you, I think, because it got really heated and there were rooms of like 100 people commenting, mostly on reclaimed water. We're like, it's like $1 million of our revenue, and yet it was tanking our rate study. So,
Did you say April 8th was your first meeting?
well, that was a drop-in public event we had.
That was the same day as the solar eclipse.
Well, you're right. And we realized
When
that
it all
on
on
that day.
site.
Oh, that's true. They're all 20 million impressions or whatever you have. They're all-
I mean, that was, yeah,
Okay.
our
Okay.
broadcast. Yeah, we were in Waco for the total path, but then, yeah, Point was the eclipse. Pretty much everyone was leaving to go to the path or going outside.
Our meeting was at night, but it's still. Everyone's sleeping by then or something from all the excitement, but we also had an event, call-in event where we gave a presentation like on Teams, but folks could call in. We had an interpreter for Spanish. We had like 15 people call into that, and that was in November, and we recorded that. So on the cleanwaterflagstaff.com, we have all the council recordings. I mean, I can't imagine too many people going through those. And the commission meetings, and the topics. So if somebody wanted to just focus on capacity fees, they could watch the presentations. We have handouts on the website. One that that seem to be used a lot is understanding your municipal services bill. So a lot of people just call it the water bill. It's like, well, I already paid $100. It's like, well, actually, so that's a lot of things. So it explains each of the buckets of money we're collecting for recycling, for trash, environmental services. Where does that money go? And that came at city council direction. And we have some other handouts. So we'll meet with Amy Community Group. I think we might be meeting with Econa on the 21st. Meeting with NAU, like I mentioned, and yeah, it's our road show.
How do these rates compare to other communities?
We have slides that show. We are about in Arizona, but looking at the bigger cities, we're not talking about like Donny Park or the area water systems, but the bigger cities were kind of in the middle for water, sewer, capacity fees. Gilbert just went 50% for 2 years, I believe 2 years on water, but then it throttles back down. That was a shock for them. But rates are just a thing in a lot of communities. So Tempe is adopting higher rates, and Scottsdale just did another increase, and they had just done one like 2 years prior.
What about stormwater? Is it part of your presentation?
Thank goodness, stormwater rates are not considered with this rate study.
Okay. So it's not
Because-
part of the proposed.
It's not, and they split off of this process because this was moving much slower than they really needed some immediate action after all the flooding, so they did their own study. And the rates were effective, January 1 this year.
Stormwater.
Yeah. So I think they were doing the stormwater rates work in like August, September, maybe it was even a year ago. Well, may have been a year ago, and rates were effective last January. I can't now remember. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Good thing they split off because that's how long it's taken us to get this work done. And our new director, who's amazing, if you get a chance to meet him, he's a gem. He comes from Santa Fe and he came up through the ranks 30 years there, and now he's here. And he's like, I would never do a 4-fund rate study all at the same time and a cost of service adjustment. And so his approach is you do one at a time. You do water 1 year, wastewater the next. So I'm learning from him a different method than we've done since I've been here, and so this is too big of a shock, and we get it. It's really not fair to the community, but we have to do it, and it's where we're at. We'll just see what council does.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your attention and for inviting me. Thank you. Oh, good, okay, trying to maintain eye contact. A lot. And I love that your parents are Wichita Falls. We talk about that all the time.
My mom is,
We don't either.
I was just saying. For the kids went to a wedding. But yeah, that was a big deal.
Yeah. We're just moving a while away.
The director of water services there, I've seen him give a talk about the event, and he's fascinating to listen to.
I know.
I mean, most people were boiling their water and stuff like that didn't have a filter.
It's like.
I know it was, definitely helped with confidence. Before, all of a sudden, we're taking 3-minute showers. We're like, oh God, oh God, oh God.
That's probably a bigger driver than, yeah, a rate adjustment.
Yeah, no luxurious baths that week. We're happy. We still had service in that too, when the hurricane flooded out a lot of the.
That overwhelms the sewer system, and then the sewer system gets in the,
Yeah, we were on boil notice for 2 months. It's insane. Yeah.
we're trying to avoid those sorts of things happening here, so we work hard. Thank you again. I'll let you get on with your meeting.
Thanks for even the pictures and the rusted pipes that it does add to the.
We'll take care of it anytime.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that pictures themselves are. No, we don't have these.
Everybody should receive the minutes from March 28th meeting. Having to make a motion and a vote.
Want to approve the minutes. The 2024 meeting.
Okay. Wait a second. Awesome. Let's vote. Everybody approve? Aye. Aye. Heather, are you still online? Yay.
Sure am. Hi, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Perfect. Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. My name is Heather Craig. I'm the Marketing Operations Coordinator at Lowell Observatory, and here is the Northern Arizona Visitation Report for last month. So here is the raw visitation data through March. And as we look at these numbers, we are kind of across the board. Our attractions are tracking pretty well with 2023 numbers. And so with weather and the mild winter that we had, and some variable changes, 2024 is tracking upwards of 2023. And you can see that here in this graph as well. This section right here, this is March 2023. And so we are right on track with those numbers. And then looking at the total vegetation that doesn't include the Grand Canyon, overall total visitation is actually up and trending more towards 2019, which is really awesome to see, this overall jump in visitation, especially in March, bringing up to that 2019 number, for everyone. And then here's the Grand Canyon. They're kind of on trend, for their 2022 numbers, which did significantly better than their 2023 visitation in the first half of the year. And so they haven't come back to this complete peak in 2019, but again, we're starting to trend upwards and see that positive visitation. It's just taken a few years. And then here is the temperature and weather in the past month. So again, we have very similar numbers from the past few years. And then, as you can see here, we didn't receive nearly as much snowfall in January, and so it was a mild winter in the beginning. So that may have also attributed to some snow play factors, and snowball visitation. So that tourism area may have been a little bit lower. And then upcoming events for our partners at Lowell Observatory. Our big upcoming event will be in November 2024. We will be opening the Marley Foundation Astronomy Discovery Center. And so we're really excited for that. Arizona Snow Bowl is gearing up for their summer gondola rides as well as their season passes. And then Flagstaff Extreme, their summer bookings are going fast, and the Big Pine Weekend trail runs are coming up. And then the Heritage Festival of Art and Culture returns to the Museum of Northern Arizona, June 22nd and 23rd. So if you're around, that's a really fun event to go to. So yeah. And then I just want to say thanks to all my sources for getting me all this wonderful data in time. And that's it. Thank you so much.
We just decided this morning in our marketing meeting that we will be doing Asteroid Day. We weren't sure because of resources. But I think we're going to do something that's June 30th. Is that right, Heather? June 30th.
Yeah, I can quadruple check. Hold on.
To be a Sunday. And that's going to be a fun event. We're looking at Mark Kelly and Brian May as potential guests. There's always a potential tentative. We'll see.
Yeah, the 30th is a Sunday.
Sunday, yeah. So June 30th, and that would be an event daytime at Meteor Crater, evening at Lowell. Would love to do some fun partnerships and stuff like that with the asteroid bit if it is something to that degree, similar to like what we do with iHeart Pluto. I would love that. I don't know what resources we'll have. June is a big month for advisory board and all of that stuff, but if something like that happens, or if there's an opportunity for community partnerships or something fun to do with Create a Flag, if we do get a Brian May or a Mark Kelly, I'll let you know.
Okay.
As soon as I know, you'll know. So
Both big, but I think Brian's a little bigger.
Brian, yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be great if he showed up. There'd be talks at Lowell. We're doing it, looking at doing, so we're still talking to people, caricature artists, maybe like, get a temporary alcohol license and have some beer up there. Not sure yet who would do that, but, maybe a hot cocoa truck, who knows? So that when, if that event happens, we have a foundation that sort of started. But yeah, I think it would be cool to do something for Asteroid Day at a bigger level, because whether or not they're tentative yes will turn into a definite yes, there is a lot of excitement and interest for asteroids in the nearest studies that we do at Lowell and at U. So that'd be cool. Yeah.
Keep us abreast.
I will let you know. That was a few hours ago decision. So.
Okay.
June 30th is Asteroid Day, and that's an international day, a recognized day, started by actually Brian May's group, the V612 Foundation. And they've identified Flagstaff as an obvious, not like capital of the event, but why not? Because we have all of our asteroid and near-Earth object studies at Lowell that we work with NASA and the government on. We've got cameras at Meteor Crater. Meteor Crater is obviously one of the best preserved sites for meteor impact. So they're stirring excitement about Flagstaff for this asteroid day. And it does happen every single year on the 30th. This year it's on a weekend. The other ones were not on weekends. So it makes sense to do something. Yeah.
We are on to,
Director and staff
Director
reports.
Staff reports. So, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, Tourism Commission, thanks for letting us present today. I am going to turn it over right away to Visitor Services.
Well, Madam Chair, Commissioners, Jessica Johnson, your Visitor Center Manager. I can go to the next slide. So we're continuing our trend and seeing increase in visitors coming into the Visitor Center. March was a lot of spring break travelers and then a lot of international. We're definitely seeing that crowd coming back. A lot of France, Germany, Italy that we're seeing in our walls. So love that. Next slide. And then sales are following the same trend, increasing as well. Some of the top items that we're doing is we have a Route 66 passport, covers the whole US. That was like our #1 item last month. And then the little stuff is always in the top, the tiles, the stickers, the magnets, that little stuff that people collect. Next slide. And then March also marked the end of the season for our winter recreation hotline. So just a quick look at that. As usual, Phoenix is the top caller of the Phoenix metro area, checking on our conditions. We are seeing a little less calls than we did prior years. That's kind of to be expected as it's a lot more consistent now. You've got snowmaking at the snow park. Snowball's been doing it a long time. Now you've got Canyon Coaster and Williams making snow. So people aren't so much not knowing whether there's snow or not. They know there is, they know kind of where to find it. So that. Next slide. And then looking ahead, we've got our spring and summer events coming up at the visitor center. Our next big one is Flagstaff Train Day. That's our longest running event. It'll be May 11th. We'll have a shootout, a reenactment of a train robbery, and then model train displays and activities, very family oriented event. So check it out.
Are you doing the William, like the crew that does the robbery for the Grand Canyon Railway?
It's a difference. A local historian, Jerry Snow, puts it together. He's very factual, so it's very much true to what happened at Canyon Diablo that time. But he does pull some of the actors from Williams to help him with that. It's you. Oh,
Yeah, the NAU graduation is same weekend as train day, right?
it always is. Yep.
Does that overflow to your event or does it?
Some, we do have some people that are in town and they might have some downtime when they're not at graduation that they'll come check it out. So it always falls on graduation. We considered moving it, but it's supposed to be the closest Saturday to May 9th when the Golden Spike was driven in at Purgatory. So, yeah. Because it was a national train day. Amtrak sort of abandoned it. We used to co-host with them, but we've kept it going, as have a lot of communities across the country that are train towns.
What's happening that weekend?
There it is. It's a busy weekend. And then Mother's Day the next day. Yeah.
Yeah.
From now on. Oh, do that? I'll already be there. All right, that's all for me.
Right. We'll move ahead to media relations.
Thanks. So, okay, the next slide for me. We're changing things a little bit this month. One of the first things that Lori had asked me to look at was just how we report numbers and what numbers we report. So I did spend my first couple of months here going over dozens of different DMOs. So I looked at Miami and Philadelphia and Durango and Bellingham and Bend and Portland and Vancouver and San Diego and Las Vegas and Albuquerque and Tucson. And really just to kind of look at how they report things that I do for Flagstaff. So if you could just go to the next slide, please. So this is the new format. And these are really, this is just to streamline and talk more about things that I and Discover Flagstaff had a hand in. And, you know, things that we actually influence. There's a lot of media coverage. We don't always get to influence what people say about us. And probably the biggest change, if you notice any change, is just moving away from the add value equivalency. That was a big one that I found not a lot of places use. There are times when we might talk about that, and it's like, how much would it have cost to place this, like to pay for this media coverage? And that's appropriate if we did it, but not if we didn't. You know, if someone writes that Grand Canyon is one of the top 10 places you should see in your lifetime, and they don't call us, and they don't reference our website, and they don't use any of our marketing pillars, then that's not something that I can really say much about. I mean, I can tell you it happened, and that's great if it was good, in fact. So that's the reason for the changes here. And this is what it's going to look like. So starting at the top is Media Assist. This is how many journalists called me or needed someone at Discover Flagstaff to help them with a quote, with ideas on what to write about, or very commonly photos, or some combination of those things. And so in the month of March, we had 7 of those. Not all of them result in immediate coverage, right? Some of those are happening now, some of those are yet to happen. And then looking back a year ago, that's pretty close. We had 6 in the same month last year. In the month of March, we hosted one person. That was Jackie Agate. She was writing for the Telegraph of London. She had actually been here 2 months prior, working on a different freelance assignment, which is actually pretty cool because she gets to know our state and chose to come back through here. That was a Route 66 story. So pretty nice. Flagstaff is the only place that she stopped on that trip. That compares pretty evenly with March a year ago. Also had one journalist who we took on a fam tour. For the month, so we still are gonna, just as a barometer, like how many people are talking about us. So I was not involved in 99 stories that came out that month, but there were 99. That was down from March 2023. I have an asterisk there. March 2023 did have a lot of negative coverage. So like one of the more common headlines was Arizona shut out of James Beard Awards, because we again had a semifinalist in that year, and then that person didn't make it to the next round. For whatever reason, the Associated Press, the food and beverage media really picked up on that. And so there were dozens of stories a year ago, not necessarily favorable to us. So it does look like we had a drop, but I would not say that we had like a favorability drop in coverage for that month.
Are these mentions of Flagstaff, or are these articles about Flagstaff? So if there's an article that mentions Flagstaff or resources something in Flagstaff, or are these articles about heavily about the?
So thank you. That's a great question, and part of the reason for the change here. So they mention either Flagstaff or Grand Canyon or Lowell or Meteor Crater or the train station or Route 66 or Atria or Ship or some combination, excluding, which took a lot of time. Lots of hours spent taking out, like the girls basketball team went to Winslow and had a win. So there was a lot of filtering that went into that. And part of the focus here is to spend more time talking to journalists and less time counting how many journalists wrote something about us. So for example, the Sister Wives. Yes. Yeah, so Sister Wives is filmed here. There was a big reunion in March among some of the cast members. We could discuss whether you should include that or not. It's not necessarily favorable or unfavorable, but what I'm moving away from is like counting the ad value of that. Because so your question's good, and I still spend a lot of time filtering. So I look at what starts out as a list of about 200. and then peeling away the sports, the police coverage and those things to come up with this number that's probably everyone at this table would look at that list of 200 and cut it up a different way.
So we have, and this is just, I guess, a resource question for helping you guys put this list together. We have an Excel spreadsheet where we track all of our interviews and stuff like that when we source out our astronomers or when a story is picked up. Can we just like add you to that Google sheet so that you can
Copy
see?
us on it.
Yeah, so you
sure.
can see when it's updated, because like I have an alert for the sheets every time something is updated with story in Forbes or something like that that
Yeah,
we've placed. We add a link there when it was published, what was mentioned in the source. Just, would that be useful, or if anyone else has a means of collecting when they're mentioned in PR, is that something?
yeah, I would definitely look at it. So I'm using, we pay a subscription service to filter and show us all of that, but sometimes they miss things. And sometimes they give us things that shouldn't be included, and so we're going through that and like peeling them out. I'm pretty good at recognizing Lowell when if someone at Lowell is quoted, it's counted, like I'm counting that for it, like there's no question. There's other things, like I gave that one example where it's like, do we count this? It technically is coverage of an attraction in Flagstaff, and the word Flagstaff is somewhere in the story. But I have another example. There was one 2 months ago, very frustrating to me. Arizona Republic story about Route 66. Mentioned the word Flagstaff, didn't talk about staying, eating, or playing here. So, it went in the list, but not, we didn't talk to that journalist. We didn't have our thumbprint on that story in any way. So it goes in the one number. Can you back up on my slides? Sorry. I'll go fast. I know we are a little behind today. So that story would go in the list. It would be counted in, the 99 for the month, but it's not one that we're holding out unless we just get lucky and they really write a bunch of favorable things without talking to us. That usually doesn't happen though. If we get favorable coverage, it's either because we talked to them or they at least referenced the Discover Flagstaff website, which has all of our pillars, all of our talking points, and it's pretty recognizable to us when they've picked up on that and they're writing, almost verbatim things that they get from there. So again, that's the reason for the change. The total articles is something that we've done before, and we'll still do it just because it gives you an idea. And we look at it for trends, opportunities, like what is the media interested in? Like, and can we get ourselves in front of that? If they all of a sudden are writing about train stations, like, then we know that we should start pitching the train station a month ahead of the time that they're writing about it. So we still pay attention to it, but it's just in a little bit different format today. Okay, so the Discover Flagstaff themes that were supported in the coverage that month, that's a little bit new, but I think important and something that we see in other DMOs like Bellingham, Philadelphia. This is something that they're really key on. Like, did we get our message out there? And so for the month, we had food and dining. No surprises. I think we've talked about that a lot. It's the James Beard recognition. Astrotourism was reflected in coverage, and almost, gosh, I don't know, 20% of that was all devil comic coverage, which again, all was quoted in that. So very appropriate. Like, of course, you're reflecting our, our pillars here.
115 coming in April, so that's what we've counted for April.
Wow.
Just as a heads up.
Yeah, that's loads. Museums was another one for the month, and that was the Culture Pass. So we would get free admission to museums, and so M&A was mentioned a lot there. And then the last thing, I'll report this every month. We didn't do any press releases in March, and there'll be times when we do more. I think we have 4 ready to issue, in this moment. So yeah, thanks for the questions on that. But this is kind of how I am comfortable talking about the stuff that I do, and happy to answer questions about that. And I'll answer as many as I can on the total articles, but I certainly don't do 99 myself.
Should we let you know if there's a PR thing that's happening or there's buzz generating or something like that? Like there's something that's going to go supernova between now and September. It's looking like it's going to be September. It will be visible, especially in Flagstaff, for 2 weeks. And so we are already fielding so much media and questions about it. Something like that. Should I email you? Should I have Kevin email you? Just like hey, this is.
Yeah, I mean, that's really good to know. And there's another partner who I was just talking with today, who they also deal with a lot of media that they don't always come through us.
Okay.
Probably most of their media doesn't necessarily come to discover Flagstaff, but they wanted some help with them. So we're more than happy to help. Like if you have people and they want to talk to a scientist about supernova, I'm not the right person for that, but if they want other ideas, other things to talk about, places to eat, that are outside of Lowell, yeah, please, send them to me. And then we can get them to do as much Flagstaff coverage as possible when you already have their attention because you're the expert source on the celestial stuff. So, yeah.
Are you in communications with the production company coming in this week?
This weekend?
Huh?
Yep. In the film slide here. By communication, you mean 4,000 texts in the last week? I'm in communication with them. Yeah, and pros. No, a lot to talk about on that one. So.
Okay, good. Commissioner, thanks for the conversation. There is a balancing act that we need to do, that we do, but we'll continue to do. So as you provide Ryan information as far as existing potential media ops, we'll need to understand what your plan is, what your media plan is. Super sensitive, we don't want to scoop, vice versa. So we'll need to understand and get a pulse on that too.
Okay, yeah, just whatever is useful for y'all, or whatever you can help.
Yeah, yeah, totally appreciate that. But we just want to be very observant and aware of what you're doing, stepping on toes. This is where we can do, this is where you, right?
Yeah.
So we just want to be hyper aware.
Yeah, easy, yeah.
Good
Yeah.
job.
But I mean, the more information we have, the more we, help, the more that we can talk to people about. So.
And maybe and we can do a one-off, but maybe we sit down with your team, however frequent you would prefer, but just for conversation purposes, maybe there's a standing meeting every quarter.
I would love that, because then I could pull the PR agency in as well. And I would love y'all to be on the radar of what they're sensing out there.
Okay. So if you want to set that up, because it's with
Sure.
your agency,
Yep.
and then we'd be happy to plug in.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Okay, next slide. Thanks. So here's some of the top coverage. Some really, really good hits for the month. So probably the best one, travel and leisure story. I believe Meg worked with this journalist a year ago and still paying dividends. So Travel and Leisure did a pretty brilliant story on this town has some of the best stargazing in the US. They mentioned pretty much every marketing pillar that we could ask for in that story. Dining, lodging, Lowell, obviously, there was a power outage while the journalist was in town, so they really got to experience dark skies, but they positive light. I mean, just could not ask for more. Kind of wanted to play a joke on Lori and leave this next one out, but I value my life too much. So we were named the top dog-friendly vacation destination, as in #1 in
What?
USA Today. Top place to visit with your dog. It was scientific and everything. They looked at how many accommodations you in town allow dogs, how many trails or beaches allow dogs, how many veterinarians per capita. Yeah, fantastic.
#1.
#1. So we have,
#1 in the country.
yeah, their table does say that, but it's beaches or dog-friendly trails, and we actually have 36 places that we recommend to people walking dogs. So yeah, not we don't have beaches. There was beaches and trails in the story that's still on USA Today, and I don't believe that one's on a paywall. So if anyone's interested in the link, I can email it to you if you send me a note. So that's great. That's one of the things we're issuing a press release on, just to make sure that everybody else is aware of that.
You're pushing that on the wire, right?
Correct. Yeah. So not only issuing a release, but a paid release on that one to get really broad distribution. Next slide, please. A couple more really good ones that I have to highlight. 8 best weekend trips from San Diego. That was in San Diego Explorer, and listed a bunch of our key pillars. So again, these are things that we definitely like to talk about. And I didn't speak to this person, but I believe again, Meg had worked with this person in the past. So again, it's just one of those times when you work with a journalist and they keep you in their Rolodex and come back to the destination. So building those relationships really pays off. And then we got the most beautiful train stations in the US. We were ranked there, and that the visitor center fielded that call. So I did very little on that, gave them the picture, I think. But they talked to the folks at the visitor center. And again, just very key and good coverage for the month. Next slide, please. All right, in March, before we get to what's going on this month, in March, we issued one permit. It was for a short film to be directed by Letitia Wright. The permit was up at Buffalo. This was right after last month's DC meeting, and it did get snowed out. So very disappointing, but they are looking at coming back. Letitia Wright, if you're not familiar with the name, she is the star, as in the star of Wakanda Forever, and she's in Black Panther. So she's pretty much an A-lister, and she's directing this and wants to enter it in a bunch of, short film contests, and to have, Eldon and the San Francisco Peaks in the background would be just amazing. So really frustrated with that snow. But I did talk to them, and they're back in LA. What they tell me is they missed a bunch of shots. So they filmed in a couple places around northern Arizona, and they didn't get, like, the actors didn't hit their lines in some places, and then they got snowed out here. And so they're gonna come back and try and redo some of that stuff. But I don't have it yet. There are a couple of film projects happening. One of them is scheduled for this weekend at least one location. It is the Olympic training, happening at Flagstaff High School. Super project. I did have to permit that also because they're using city facilities. So I've been working with pros on that, trying to make sure they could park their semi trucks everywhere. And now they're looking at an additional location. Hopefully we can accommodate that. But yeah, the crew of like close to 100.
Gotta be more.
Yeah. For a couple of nights and
Hotels.
and making a sizable donation to the high schools. So
Which is fantastic.
so
Hotels, airport, rental cars, restaurants, shopping. It's gonna be a very busy weekend. Breweries. Breweries, yeah. Yes.
yeah, so
Restaurants,
hopefully they get everything they need.
they will.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next month. As they are on the phone with pros as we speak. Yes.
Ryan, do you know if they're taking advantage of the tax incentive that the state is offering?
I don't know. Haven't talked to them about that one
I
yet.
don't
So
know if they care.
Mentioned, but just so the state can track the economic impact too.
yeah. So this project actually came to us like a month ago, and parks could not accommodate that. They wanted Fort Park. This weekend is opening day for all athletics at Fort Park. They did not accommodate that. And so I put them in touch with the high schools because they wanted athletic fields. And then they were in on the fields, then they were out on the field, then they were going to go to Sedona, and then they came up. But then the school itself wasn't big enough. So that's what we're working on, is that they need an additional location. So there's not going to be more people, like a bigger economic impact, but they're going to need an additional site, and maybe we can get them that. So that's what we're working on right now. I mean, the project is still coming,
It's
but
they started today.
yeah,
They're
but
coming now.
yeah, they're in town already.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they're, how happy they're gonna be if they don't find that second location. So that's what we're working on right now, is to try and find them a grassy field that's not being used by athletics somewhere in the city. So
How big of it?
soccer field size.
And you didn't have, probably not with school. They're hard, I know.
This one has been interesting. This is for a shoe company that is not the shoe company that sponsors NAU athletes. So they could not film at NAU.
Big View County Park.
I'm sorry, both of you said something once.
Big View County Park.
I think that all grassy areas in the city are being considered.
It's a county.
Oh, the county,
It's artificial.
golf course.
It's artificial though.
Did they have pushback on artificial?
Yeah, so
Yeah, they had pushback.
that's the latest thing. They have a soccer field. One of the athletes cannot run on artificial turf, so they need real grass. And the real grass locations that we have identified aren't like suitable for their trucks. I'll look at the county. I mean, like I said, they are meeting now during this meeting. They're still talking to our pros department about like could they relocate a soccer pool to a grassy field somewhere else in the city or county or region.
Do you have insight on why they picked Flagstaff if it wasn't an incentive?
The original, so there have been 3 different location scouts on this, and the original one was in Phoenix, and it had something to do with the Olympic athletes coming up here, but it wasn't really to highlight what we want to talk about, high altitude training and Olympians. It was a problem finding a location in the Phoenix area. So they turned to Flagstaff, and I, did everything I could to help them. And like I said, I kind of just put them in touch with the schools, and I thought it was all self-contained at Flagstaff High School, and that's where it was all going to happen. But it came back up. So,
Madam Chair, it is time, and Michael Marquez had to go.
Okay.
So it's up to the commission. We're here for you. We'll sit around for another hour. It's up to you as to timing. We still have a quorum, so you just have to be aware of it and ask your commissioners.
Up to you guys.
How much time do you need?
If I,
Minutes, but
if I could jump in just on behalf of the marketing and creative services section, everybody's seen the slides, so I could defer to you and ask if you have any questions and keep it that quick. So up to you.
But we have other.
Also have social media.
Yeah,
Marketing.
I don't have too much, so it's on the slides.
We can get it done in 20 minutes for sure.
Yes.
It's up to
30
you.
minutes?
Okay.
For this, please.
I'll go fast.
An hour.
I'll talk as slow as I can. So, Madam Chair and Commissioners, Isabel here, social media. In our first slide, we have insights on our Facebook account. We did have a couple posts go viral this month, so woohoo. That 662,000 in reach is crazy. But as you can see, people do like the then and now posts. So that will be a continued campaign until I run out of things to talk about, really. Could we go to the next slide, please? On our Instagram and Twitter, we did a couple partnerships this month. We did partnerships with Morning Glory Cafe, the Weatherford, and the Charlie's bar and restaurant in there, Bahamar and the Americana, and Cedar House Coffee. All did pretty successful in a little less than 10,000 in reach. A lot of saves, so future tourists or visitors can take a look at it later on. Let's see. We also did other collaborative deals with some users. So a user named JBRE & Co. He is a realtor, but has some pretty awesome drone footage. And those are all on our Instagram page as well. Your reels. All right, next slide. All right, flight caps, not too much here again. Still missing some data from last year, but we will be getting next month in data from last year from when I started. So we'll get that comparison data, but still pretty high open rate, pretty look through rate, but I'm still pretty happy with that open rate. All right, next slide, please. Looking ahead, Route 66 Centennial, as always, we did a then and now as a museum club, and there are some interesting stories in the comments, but we can take a look at that later. Of course, the eclipse, thank you for having us over at Lowell, by the way. Thank you. Fantastic event, really helped push the eclipse on our socials. Festivals and festival sweepstakes has begun. So we'll be going through that on our socials as well. High altitude training, Olympics, all kind of wrapped in together, really pushing that as well. And of course, spring content, so Joe's Passport, spring blossoms, things to do in the spring, free flag as well, all kind of encompassed in there. All right, that was my Fast and Furious presentation. Any questions for me?
Congrats on the.
Thank you.
It's like a rapid fire.
Thank you. All right, good afternoon, Madam Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners, Lori Pappas, Marketing and Media Relations. Sabrina is not able to join us today, so I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have relative to email campaigns. Hearing nothing. Can we go to the slide titled March Paid Digital? There we go. This is where we were for the month of March. More than 1 million impressions were served. Average click-through rate was 0.26. So twice the benchmark. Any questions here? Good, good. Any questions on our website metrics, gang? Looking good. That's what I can share. High level. Let's go to the next, yep, things to do. I mean, look at that. I mean, it just, picture's worth 1,000 words, right? Just makes you smile. Next slide, please. Here we are with festivals, already seeing a great uptick. And I do want to share that we've just been on a great trajectory over the course of since 2022, and it just keeps on keeping on. So it really tells us a lot of things. The content is relevant. People want to see it. We're serving the content to the right person and the right position in the buying funnel. Things are good. Things are looking good. Dining and nightlife. Next slide. Yep. Come on.
Wow.
I mean, I think
What's the reason for such an increase here?
so. You've heard me brag time and time again in regard to our website provider, website host, Tempest. They're amazing. And they've leaned in, they've heard the cries that there are particular domains that we chase, and that I'm very competitive. And I think that that's a product of that. Also, it's us as an organization leaning into our commissioners and hearing your hot buttons and elevating that. So I would say we've got a big pedal down on search engine optimization. We know that the whole voice office assistant is rising to the top too with search. So that's also a product of that and them getting ahead of the curve. So
That's Tempest.
Yeah.
Tempest.
Thank you.
That's crazy.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a lot of heavy lifting and it's a lot of consistency. It's a lot of right partners too, and a lot of right partners at this table. Let's go to the next slide. Looking ahead, what do we have planned for the month of May? Everybody's getting outdoors. We're a 4-season destination, so we're really talking about cool. We heard in January, I don't expect you guys to remember this, but in January when we did our big annual presentation, as far as what we were planning for FY25, we brought forward Condé Nast and what they were looking at. Remember, the number one story was astrotourism. I shouldn't say story. What they identified as top travel motivate. Travel
motivators.
Astrotourism was in number one. Location, I believe, was in the top 3. I mean, that's like it was written for us, right?
Right.
So location is something too that Ryan is getting ready to push out and to leverage that phrase as well. So there's a little peek here of some of the creatives that we're working on for the month of May. Astrotourism, as stellar as it gets, all folding into that same campaign vertical. Next slide, please. This supports our festivals. And I just want to call out that we are calling out specific festivals during specific time periods. And we're going to get really specific on the next slide. So let's go there and we'll talk more about this. Guys, this is creative for Phoenix outdoor billboards.
Love it.
Come on, you're going to love it more. Just a little bit of housekeeping here and what we shared in the past is that these billboard creatives are digital, which means they are going to be served programmatically. So the billboard companies know who's driving by a location. They know their psychographics. So they're going to serve these billboards to people that have a propensity to buy tickets to events. They're going to know psychographically, these people enjoy the outdoors. Boom. These people enjoy the arts. Boom. So this is super cool. And we've got this billboard for a period of time. So just high level, I know time is of the essence here, but I just want to share these boards go live May 1st and the first creatives May 1st through the 15th, and rotation will have Overland Expo and ArtX. To give you an idea, next May 16th through June 1st, we're going to talk about Wool and Fiber Festival and then Hullabaloo. so forth and so on. June 1st through the 14th, we're going to talk about Pride. June 7th through the 21st, it's going to be the Beer Festival, Heritage Fest. Let's see where we're going. All right, next slide, please. Last commission, I talked about researching a media partner for our wildfire prevention educational campaign. We've partnered with Tegna, which is Channel 12, the NBC affiliate in Metro Phoenix. What you're looking at here are 6 creatives for tickers. These tickers will be on the bottom of Channel 12's morning news, noon news, and 4 p.m. news. And this is a very small sampling of the news tickers we created. What you're looking at right now is what we put in the silo of general awareness. It does not pertain to any fire restrictions. But we do have staged restrictions for stages 1, 2, and 3. So we have a plethora in libraries of tickers to address those staged restrictions. And the network is ready for us to feed them tickers according to the stage restrictions that we're in. The contract is in such that they will air these tickers along with 15-second videos talking about responsible visitation and fire awareness, wildfire awareness. We'll have takeovers. We're a sponsor. We are the sponsor of the network's web page on fire awareness. We'll have homepage takeovers on key dates leading into key holidays. First one being Memorial Weekend. So we're gonna fire these up during those key holiday periods. Any questions there? All right, next slide, please. This Billboard creative is going live May 1. This is in Palm Springs. The same creative will be activated on the existing board in LA, Southern California.
Beautiful. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, thank you. Next slide, please. This creative is running in the Arizona Daily Sun's special section called Progress Report. And we're calling attention to just the beauty of tourism and what it means to the community, just in 2 distinct speaking points to the right. Would love to get these in front of you too. So when you're visiting with neighbors, when you're talking with peers, just kind of talk about the strength of what tourism does, especially as we're leading into a BBB vote. This is also working in tandem with National Travel and Tourism Week, which is May 19th through the 25th. And we do have our annual service day coming up on May 22nd. Please let Sabrina know if you can join us on that cleanup. I think all of this is looking ahead. Ralph, I think all that is good. And looking ahead. That is going to end my presentation. Are there any questions? All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, Vice Chair, thanks for letting us present.
Thank you. Awesome.
Did we do it?
Awesome.
All right.
The next meeting will be May 23rd. Ellen?
Yeah, need to adjourn.
Oh. Need to adjourn. Motion to adjourn, please.
We actually don't need to motion. You can just adjourn.
No?
You can just adjourn, say
Okay,
adjourn.
this meeting is just adjourned.
You have to hit something.
Mic drop. If you need the time, 3:14. Yeah.
Okay, no motion, I didn't know that.